Hey everyone, welcome into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I'm Bobby Sylvester, the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter if you don't already at BobbyFantasyPro. And today what I'm going to be doing is running through my rankings, taking some of your start-sit questions, especially for the Thursday night game. So let's get right into it. We're going to start at the running back position and just run through guys who aren't obvious starts or obvious sits. Like you're starting Mark Ingram at this point in the season. Leonard Fournette, after what he did, he's in everyone's top 10. So let's just get right to it. I've got Royce Freeman as my first start. I've actually got him down as RB26 right now. ECR, that's expert consensus ranking. So we take 100 plus analysts across the industry. We mash them up into one ranking and say, this is what the analysts as a whole in the industry would recommend. We've got Royce Freeman in the top 30, which means he is a start this week against the Los Angeles Chargers, who are really banged up. They're also not especially good at tackling. And you can look at Philip Lindsay and say he's having a better season. He had one great game against the Green Bay Packers. Besides that, he really has not done much, and Freeman's been the guy leading this backfield in snaps. Last week, he played over 65% of the snaps. He also has been getting a lot of targets, 18 in the last 3 weeks, 13 receptions in that time. So even if Denver 0-4 is playing from behind against the Chargers, it looks like Freeman's going to be the one on the field seeing a lot of these pass opportunities. I've got Freeman as my RB26. Philip Lindsay's still startable. I've got him at RB28, and for what it's worth, ECR has him at 22. So you can play both these guys against the Chargers this week. They're not going to be able to do a lot through the air. I guess you can start Cortland Sutton. We'll get to that. But for me, it's Freeman at RB26, Philip Lindsay at RB28. And I'll get to some guys that I would start them over. Some of these names might surprise you. Let's get up closer to the sure start region. I've had a lot of people asking me about Melvin Gordon. What do I do? Austin Eckler. You start them both. They're both in my top 20. They're both in ECR's top 20. I've got Melvin Gordon, RB18, just behind David Montgomery, who's a must start for me against Oakland. It's a really good matchup. Montgomery's taken over the lead role in this backfield. It's really not even close. In fact, he has more of a share of the backfield than Todd Gurley does with the Los Angeles Rams. Nobody's asking, hey, should I start Todd Gurley? You definitely start David Montgomery in a positive game script against a bad running defense in Oakland. Melvin Gordon is a start as well, Austin Eckler. I think this week it's going to be about 50-50, and then the Melvin Gordon owner's probably going to panic and be like, what in the world? I thought this guy was going to be the starting running back, and then you'll be able to get him for cheap because Melvin Gordon is going to be the same running back we saw last year, 75% of the workload, a top 10 running back, probably top 5. I just don't think it's going to happen this week against Denver, and Austin Eckler is probably going to have a good game as well. So remember that after Monday's games, try to take advantage of the Melvin Gordon owner via trade and see if you can acquire him. Somebody else that I'm starting right now at least is LaShawn McCoy. I'm not sure if he's going to play. He's been limited in practice, but this has been the narrative the last 2 weeks, right? He's been on the injury report. We're not sure if he's going to play, game time decision, and then he plays. But he's been the RB2 in that backfield, and this time, granted, it's like a 55-45 split, but Darrell Williams is the RB1. I've got him one spot higher than LaShawn McCoy right now. I think they're both playable if McCoy's on the field. If not, Darrell Williams is top 15 back maybe against Indianapolis. I don't love the matchup, but I do love the game script. And Darrell Williams has been quite good, also getting goal line carries. He scored 2 touchdowns last week. So Darrell Williams, RB20. LaShawn McCoy, RB21. Right behind them is James White, RB22. And ECR has him at 26, so you're going to see a lot of these rankings, and he's not a must start. He's a good flex play, but I've got him as a must start in RB2. Solid matchup against Washington. Sony Michel can't do much. The whole running game can't do much without James Devlin. They're fine because they're the Patriots. They're going to get goal line opportunities as well. But James White is being used heavily in the passing game. Once Antonio Brown's gone, I think he's going to get in the end zone this weekend against Washington as well. A couple other guys in that top 25 range. I don't feel great about them, but you know what? At some point, you just got to bite your tongue and play him. Devonta Freeman at Houston. He's ECR 23. I've got him 23 in my rankings. I don't love the matchup. Houston's great against the run. Not as good this year as they were last year with Jadeveon Clowney, but Devonta Freeman is going to be used as their primary back. Ito Smith's going to be involved, but Freeman last week, he had 20 touches, 8 receptions. Regardless of the game script, he's going to be efficient. Not efficient. Regardless of the game script, he's going to be involved enough that you will want to play him. Wayne Gallman, as of right now, it seems like Saquon's not going to play. You can see on the bottom of the screen, however. Actually, hold on just a second. Let me flip that overlay back on. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. You can see at the bottom of the screen there that Giants coach Pat Shurmur says that Saquon might actually play this week, which is a really big surprise. I'm not sure why they would rush him back. They're not going to compete this year, but if it's a possibility, obviously if Saquon plays, you play him, and if he plays, you don't play Wayne Gallman. But assuming Saquon's going to be out, Wayne Gallman is a solid start again, even against Minnesota, just because he's going to get so many touches. It seems like Jordan Howard is the number one back in Philadelphia, which is just really funny. There were so many people who were super high on Miles Sanders thinking Doug Peterson wasn't going to do the same stuff. And guess what? He is. They've got 2-3 running backs that they're all using. It's just going to be the hot hand. Maybe it's Miles Sanders this week, but with the fumble issues and what Jordan Howard did last week, it looks like it's probably going to be Jordan Howard. So you can play him. I've got him as an RB3, running back 25, just ahead of Freeman, just ahead of Lindsey. And someone else in that range, Chris Thompson. I feel good about playing him against the Patriots. If you don't think Washington's going to be playing from behind, you are absolutely crazy. And when they play from behind, it's Chris Thompson on the field, not Adrian Peterson. We all know that one. So I've got him RB27. Philip Lindsay, as I mentioned, at 28. Duke Johnson is my number 29 back. ECR has him down at 38, so I'm quite a bit higher on Duke Johnson. Mike Tagliere of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast is also with me on this one. In fact, he would tell you I'm with him because he's the one that brought it up first and he talked me into it. It makes a lot of sense. I don't love Duke Johnson because of the way they've been using him, but Atlanta over the past 3 years has been horrible against pass-catching backs. That includes this season. Houston's likely going to be playing, I don't know, I won't say they're likely going to be playing from behind. I think they're going to be playing from behind in this game. Atlanta's a lot better than their record shows. And so I've got Duke Johnson as RB29 right now, just ahead of Matt Breida. Look, Matt Breida could have a huge game against Cleveland. Who knows? I mean, assuming that he's, that he stays healthy the whole game because he's so fragile. But he's the starting running back in San Francisco. I don't know if he's going to get 40% of the touches, 70% of the touches, but he is the RB1. So I've got him as RB30 this week, just ahead of Sony Michel. ECR has him at 25 for what it's worth. So they think, around the industry, people are saying you can still play Sony as a flex play. I agree with that. I don't want to do it against Washington, though. It's not a bad matchup by any means. The game script is great, but with the way they've been using Sony Michel, I don't feel good about playing him. I'd rather go Duke Johnson. I'd rather go Royce Freeman. Those are two guys that not most people would recommend playing over Sony Michel, but I do this week. Somebody else that you can see on the side there, Josh Jacobs. I've got him as a sit. He's going up against Chicago, and you can look at Josh Jacobs. I'm pulling it open right now. Josh Jacobs has played 4 games this season, just like pretty much everybody else. In his game scripts, he was playing from behind against Kansas City. He had 12 touches. He was playing behind against Minnesota. He had 10 touches. The other 2 games, they were closer. 24 touches and 19 touches. That's who he's going to play. That's who he's going to be if they're playing from up. But when they're playing from behind, it's mostly Jalen Richard on the field as the primary pass catching back. And I think that's what's going to happen this week. Plus, it's a horrid matchup against Chicago. So I've got Josh Jacobs outside my top 30. Like I mentioned, I'd rather play Matt Breida, Duke Johnson, Royce Freeman, and Jordan Howard ahead of him. Okay, a couple other guys in this range. Just behind him, Carlos Hyde. Like I said, I think this is a Duke Johnson week because, Atlanta's better against the run than they are against pass-catching backs. Nyheim Hines, I've got him up at 34. Okay, ECR has him down at 45. A lot of this is going to depend on Marlon Mack. Actually, you know what? Even if Marlon Mack is out there, he's banged up, so I don't think they're going to use him on third downs. I get it. He's been cutting into Nyheim Hines' third down workload this season, but because Marlon Mack is banged up a little bit, and I believe they've got a bye coming up, I think they're going to take it a little bit easy on him and just make sure that Marlon Mack is good to go for the remainder of the season. I'm not saying Marlon Mack is going to lose a lot of his first and second down or goal line work or anything like that. But Nyheim Hines is going to be on the field enough against the pass that I would recommend playing him, and especially against Kansas City, another team very bad against pass catching backs. And historically, they're going to be playing from ahead. So there's going to be a lot of passing from Jacoby Brissett, and Nyheim Hines is going to get his hands on some of those. Miles Sanders is a sit this week. I already mentioned Jordan Howard, the fumble issues for Miles Sanders, which is nothing new. They knew this when they drafted him, and he needs to get it together. There's a chance that Miles Sanders goes off this week. There's also a chance that Miles Sanders gets 4 touches this week. I think that the second one is more likely, so I'm not playing him. I'm also not playing Ronald Jones. You can see that on your side of the screen. He's a sit for me this week against New Orleans. I mean, first of all, they're saying Peyton Barber is the starter. They're going to keep using the hot hand. More than likely, Ronald Jones is going to be the hot hand, but nobody's really going to be the hot hand against the Saints. Saints have a bad defense. They've got a great run defense, however, and Ronald Jones does not catch any passes. He's got, I think, 2 targets. He's got 3 targets on the entire season. If they're playing from behind, it's going to be Dare who comes in and gets most of that, pass catching work out of the backfield. Ronald Jones might be in for a 12-touch week, and if he is against New Orleans, I don't want to play him. I'm also not playing Tariq Cohen against Oakland. Let's wait and see if his role extends a little bit. Don't drop him quite yet. Rex Burkhead against Washington is another wait and see. If he's on your waiver wire speed dial, keep him in mind next week because I think he might be getting a bigger load once the Patriots give up on Sony Michel. I think that's right around the corner. He's not forced to miss tackle the entire season. Jalen Samuels going up against Baltimore. He would jump. I've got him 39 right now, and this is factoring in like a 20% chance James Conner misses the week. If Conner misses the week, Jalen Samuels jumps up to, I don't know, RB, 16, 17 range, right in between Joe Mixon, David Montgomery. So he would be a must start. If James Conner plays, you can't start Jalen Samuels. Frank Gore, I would not start him against Tennessee. Bad matchup. Devin Singletary might be back. And Frank Gore is really just not very good. He did have 2 big runs last week, so his final stat line looked great, but both of those, you could have fit a semi-truck through those holes, and maybe that'll happen again, but probably not against Tennessee. I don't think you guys probably have any questions about Latavius Murray, Deion Lewis, Ito Smith. Don't start any of those guys. Even if Devin Singletary plays, I'm not starting him quite yet. I think they'll ease him back in. Tevin Coleman, same kind of thing. So let's move along to the wide receiver position, where I've got Keke QT as a start. Now, this is somebody that you can pick up off the waiver wire in a lot of cases. I'm not saying that I've got Keke QT high. I understand he hasn't done much. Also, keep in mind, they traded for Kenny Stills full well knowing that Keke QT was going to take a few weeks to be back, and that's what we saw. First 3 weeks, he hardly played at all. Last week, they ramped him up to 60% of the snaps. That's about what we saw last season. Now, when Will Fuller was out, obviously Keke QT was playing every snap. But when QT's on the field, he gets targets thrown his way 16% of the time since he joined the NFL. That's huge. That's much higher than Will Fuller. It's even higher than DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not saying he's their wide receiver 1 or anywhere close, but I am saying this week against Atlanta, a team that gives up 27 fantasy points to slot receivers per game this year, you can play Keke QT. Your opponent's going to laugh at you, but he probably won't be laughing at the end of the week. I've got QT. Let me pull up my rankings right now. I've got QT in my top 50 wide receivers, so a solid wide receiver 4 that you can put in your flex. Again, this isn't somebody that you have to start, but it is someone I feel comfortable starting this week. And another guy just like that, Anthony Miller, you see him at the bottom of there as well. Anthony Miller, I've got just a couple of spots behind Keke QT. And by the way, my rankings are going to come out later today. You'll see them on my Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro. They're also on the Fantasy Pros homepage, and I'm going to pin them to my Twitter. Again, that's at BobbyFantasyPro. I update them throughout the week every couple of hours. So if you've got start-sit questions, and I can't get to every Twitter question I wish that I could, you can tweet me your questions. I get to as many of them as I can. But if I can't get to it, just look at my rankings. It's going to give you all the answers that you need, and you'll be able to check this out as I update it throughout the week. But right now, Taylor Gabriel's dealing with a concussion. They've got their bye in week 6, so I would imagine they're going to hold him out one more week. Just play it safe with them. In Oakland, I already mentioned how bad Atlanta is against slot receivers. Oakland's the second worst in all of the NFL against slot receivers. That's where Anthony Miller plays the majority of his snaps. And he's a very talented football player. Like, I get it. He hasn't done anything. But, again, what did you expect against Minnesota, Denver, Green Bay? Those are 3 really good secondaries. Plus, Anthony Miller was banged up. This is the week that he goes off, and I'm excited about it. I've already picked him up in a couple leagues just to make sure I've got him ahead of time. All right, let's move on over to the second slide here. First, I'm going to run through the rest of my wide receivers. You see I got A.J. Brown as a sit. We'll get to that one eventually. A couple other guys I've been getting a lot of questions about. I think these guys are locks. Robert Woods, he still is playing well. He's just not getting as many targets. Jared Goff isn't playing great. I've got Robert Woods in my top 20. ECR has Robert Woods in their top 20. Allen Robinson, has he gotten the end zone yet this year? He hasn't gotten the end zone yet this year, but he's piling up the targets. 13 in week 1, 7 in week 2, 7 in week 3, 7 in week 4. He's got 102, 60, 77 yards, and I just mentioned those matchups for Chicago. It hasn't been easy. Allen Robinson is the rest of the season top 20 fantasy wide receiver. That's regardless of whether or not Mitch Trubisky comes back. Chase Daniel looked really good last week. Pro Football Focus said he was the number 2 quarterback on film last week, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't discount their wide receivers whatsoever. Allen Robinson is my wide receiver 19 this week. Josh Gordon is startable against Washington. Stephon Diggs, I know you guys are losing your mind over Diggs. He's been held out of practice for whatever reason, personal issues, maybe they're trading him, whatever. He hasn't got many targets because they're not throwing the ball much, but this week he gets the New York Giants. It's a really great matchup, and he's still got 209 yards on the season. That's not bad. If you had another guy who's typically ranked like 45, and he had 209 yards in the season, you wouldn't be panicking. It's just Stephon Diggs is a disappointment because you drafted him in the third, fourth round. I get it, but he's still startable against the Giants. Looks like T.Y. Hilton's not going to play. If he does play, he's a start against Kansas City, even if he's a game-time decision. Just keep an eye on that one. Devontae Adams, same thing. I'd say 90% chance he doesn't play. He's been held out of practice. It looks like a multi-week toe injury. So, again, Geronimo Allison is a great play. You can pick him up and use him. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Not a good matchup against Dallas, but anytime you're the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, you're a start, even if you're playing a defense like Dallas. Marquise Brown, I've got him at 25, so I feel good about starting him, but he's not really a great play against Pittsburgh. He's going to be one of those up-and-down guys. And then we get to Robbie Anderson. And Robbie Anderson is someone that I absolutely love this week. In fact, if you heard the sit show yesterday with Mike Tagliere and Jeff Erickson, Tag stole my start of the week. It's Robbie Anderson. We both love Anderson this week. I mean, let's look at his matchup so far. Yes, he has been dreadful. Buffalo, 3 receptions, 23 yards. Cleveland, 4 for 81. New England, 3 for 11. And then the bye week. So he has 115 yards on the season, no touchdowns, 10 receptions. Guys, he played 3 of the top 5 shadow corners in the NFL. Tre'Davious White, Denzel Ward, Stephon Gilmore. What in the world did you expect? This is what you signed up for. But now he gets the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll get to see Robbie Anderson not shadowed, not covered by a good cornerback, and he's going to go off because he's Robbie Anderson. He's a solid wide receiver 3 any week that he's not playing one of those elite shadow corners, and there's more matchups like that coming. Week 7, Stephon Gilmore. Week 8, Jalen Ramsey. Week 9, Xavier Howard. Janoris Jenkins, I wouldn't quite put in that territory. Xavier Howard again in 14. Baltimore should be getting Jimmy Smith back. Week 15, Tre'Davious White in 17. So there's some bad matchups, but when he's not in one of those, you play Robbie Anderson. That's this week. I've got him as a top 20. I've got him number 26 right now. ECR has him at 41, so not quite as confident. They're recommending him as a decent flex play. I've got him as a solid start. I would start him over Calvin Ridley against Houston. I like Calvin Ridley, but I like Robbie Anderson that much more this week. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 28 against the Chargers. Sterling Shepard against the Minnesota Vikings is startable. He's top 30. Keep an eye on Mike Williams. I'm not sure if he's going to play. He's got 2 injuries he's dealing with. He was ruled out for a back injury in week 4, also dealing with the knee a little bit. I would imagine he's going to sit this game as well. Even if he does play, he's kind of a fringe start for me. I've got him wide receiver 30 right now. Frankly, I should bump that down a little bit, maybe to about 36, 37. Already mentioned Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's a start. Jarvis Landry against the San Francisco 49ers is a start. He had a great week last week. Obviously, I don't expect that to continue, and especially against a matchup like San Francisco, who has a very good defense. But 7 targets in week 1, 7 in week 2, 9 in week 3, 10 in week 4. He's got 328 yards on the season. That's Jarvis Landry, guys. You play him unless he gets one of those horrible matchups like Baltimore, Jacksonville, Buffalo, New England. Those are really the only 4 where I wouldn't start Jarvis Landry. DJ Moore, this ranking really depends on Jalen Ramsey, right? Because Jalen Ramsey was held out last week. He's dealing with an injury. Maybe he even gets traded. I would guess probably not. If Jalen Ramsey plays, I'll move DJ Moore down from 33 to 39, 40. You can play him. He's a flex play. If Jalen Ramsey is out, I'll move him up from 33 to, let's see here. He's going to be still going up against AJ Boye, so I wouldn't move him too high. Typically, I would have DJ Moore around 22, 23. This week, I'd have him around 27, right behind Robbie Anderson, if Jalen Ramsey's out. Will Fuller against Atlanta. I know he hasn't done much. He does have a ton of air yards, though, and that tends to correlate to future fantasy points more than prior fantasy points correlate to future fantasy points. So Will Fuller is a solid wide receiver 3 start against Atlanta. John Brown against Tennessee. Not a good matchup, but again, anytime John Brown's healthy, he's been a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. John Brown's healthy. He's been performing like a wide receiver 3. That's who he is. You play him against the Titans. Emmanuel Sanders against the Chargers. He's a start as well. Demarcus Robinson has been up and down. Yeah, that's going to happen because Mahomes spreads the ball out so much. But against Indianapolis, I would still start Demarcus Robinson. Maybe it's a boom. Maybe it's a bust. Not really sure. But because of the possibility of that, 25, 30-point week, you play Demarcus Robinson. Tyrell Williams, Curtis Samuel. I'm just going to read off a couple guys I've got in this flex range. DK Metcalf against the Rams. Curtis Samuel, by the way, most people have him as a solid start this week against Jacksonville. I guess they're assuming Jalen Ramsey's going to be out. If Ramsey plays, that means Boye is going to be on Curtis Samuel. Not a great matchup. Samuel's going to be fine, but he's a flex play for me. Mohamed Sanu, someone else I feel comfortable starting. Calvin Ridley hasn't been playing as well lately. And also, they're using Mohamed Sanu like he's their number 2. 12 targets through 4 games this year. Good matchup. High scoring shootout against Houston perhaps this week. So I've got Sanu, wide receiver 42, as a solid start. Cole Beasley is a solid start. And then Terry McLaurin. This is the guy I've been getting the most questions about this week. I've got him wide receiver 44, so you can play him in the flex. I wouldn't feel good about it going up against New England. There's no doubt about it. Stephon Gilmore's going to be on him. He's one of the top 3 or 4 cover corners in the game. But Terry McLaurin's Terry McLaurin. He's going to play 95% of the snaps. He's going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 targets. And maybe he sneaks into the end zone because he can take a big play to the house as well. Terry McLaurin is a decent flex play, right in the range of, I mentioned Cole Beasley, who's getting a ton of targets. Mohamed Sanu getting a ton of targets. Jamison Crowder against Philly this week. Sam Darnold might be back. Hardman for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then Golden Tate, I've got him as a low-end wide receiver 4, so you can play him if you're desperate. Would not recommend it, however. Keyshawn Johnson, it looks like he's going to be a quality play this week with Christian Kirk out, going up against Cincinnati. Great matchup. Philip Dorsett's on the outside looking in, but keep an eye on him. He's right around that 40 range in ECR. Geronimo Allison, same kind of thing. It depends on Devontae Adams. In fact, I need to move Allison up because it looks like Adams is going to be out. Auden Tate is a good play against Arizona because John Ross is now on IR. Obviously, AJ Green is still out as well, and Auden Tate's been getting a lot of work. And then keep an eye on Paris Campbell. If he plays, I would move him up to a start. He's been missing practice, though, with an abdominal injury. He got 8 targets last week. They get Kansas City this week in a great game script. If he doesn't play, Deion Kane is startable. I wouldn't play Corey Davis after the big week. He's drawing Tre'Davious White. We've talked about him quite a bit on this show. I wouldn't play A.J. Brown. He had 3 targets last week. He played in 40% of the snaps. Yeah, he had 94 yards, but a couple of those were blown coverage. You can't play A.J. Brown right now. You can own him, sure. He's got upside if they ever decide to play him, but right now he's the number 4 wide receiver in this offense. Same thing with Deebo Samuel, Dante Pettis, just too many question marks. Not sure what to think about this 49ers wide receiver core. D.D. Westbrook is out. He's not out, I'm sorry. He's out of my startable range against Carolina. They've got a really good pass defense. Andy Isabella is someone to keep an eye on. You can play him this week against Cincinnati if you're desperate, but there's other better desperate plays. You can pick up Deion Kane, no doubt about it. You can pick up Kiki QT, Anthony Miller, Keyshawn Johnson. All those are better plays. But if you're really desperate, yeah, go ahead and pick up Andy Isabella. He's got some upside as well. All right, let's go to the tight end position. You see there, I've got Tyler Eifert as the start this week. He's in my top 10 tight ends. He's in virtually everyone's top 12 tight ends because he's going up against Arizona, who's given up 18 fantasy points per game to tight ends. Second worst in football is 12. So Arizona is a full 50% better than the second worst, which is just absolutely incredible. I don't care if it's like Kyle Rudolph, James O'Shaughnessy, Blake Jarwin going up against this Arizona Cardinals defense. You can start them because they can't stop tight ends to save their lives. So Tyler Eifert, I get it. He's splitting snaps with CJ Uzomah. Uzomah's not a bad desperation play too. I've got him in my top 20, but Eifert is the number 1 there, especially in the red zone on the goal line. So Tyler Eifert, I would play him over even O.J. Howard. I like O.J. Howard fine for the rest of the season. Don't drop him, please. But O.J. Howard going up against the Saints, one of the top 3 defenses against tight ends. Got him as a sit this week. In fact, I've got Delaney Walker as a sit this week to face Buffalo. Jimmy Graham against Dallas. All 3 of those are bad matchups. You can pick up Tyler Eifert. You can pick up Jared Cook against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I get it. Teddy Bridgewater isn't Drew Brees. Jared Cook really isn't that great. There's not enough targets to go around. But this week against Tampa, it's a good enough matchup. I would pick up Jared Cook if I've got O.J. Howard. Again, don't cut Howard. Put him on your bench. But pick up Jared Cook as a streamer. Let's see, any other tight ends to talk about. Jack Doyle's not a bad desperation play against Kansas City, but I think you can probably get Jared Cook. Trey Burton, keep an eye on him. Going up against Oakland, this could be his breakout week. He's been playing a lot more, banged up to start the season. I believe it was a hip injury he's been dealing with for, 10 months now. But they're playing, he's got 4 targets each of the last 2 weeks, hasn't done anything with it. I think this week against Oakland he could. So maybe you pick him up right now so you don't need to pick him up on the waiver wire next week. I could see on Tuesday's next show with Tags, we do a live stream on Tuesday, by the way. Tags does one on Sunday morning as well. If you want notifications for those future live streams, hit the subscribe button. And also, if you're enjoying the show, please give us a like. Tells our bosses that you enjoy the content and that you want more of it. So that does really help us out if you hit the like and subscribe button. But I would imagine next Tuesday we're going to be talking about Trey Burton as somebody that you might want to pick up because, hey, Chicago's using him now. Because Chase Daniel, I think he's a better quarterback at this point than the way Mitch Trubisky's been playing. When he comes back, I think Trubisky needs to be the guy because he's got a lot of talent. We saw it last year. He was great. But as of now, Chase Daniel is going to help out Trey Burton a little bit more, and Trey Burton getting more healthy. Great matchup. Keep an eye on him. Austin Hooper is number 8. Eric Ebron, 9. Will Dissly, 10. Greg Olsen, 7.